The state's largely conservative lawmakers and the uber-conservative governor continue to spar over plans to cut property taxes. The plans currently find several tax hikes on the table, tax hikes the governor opposes, and will likely find lawmakers searching down the road for 33 votes needed to override a governor's veto. Weighing in on the feud, the state's leading conservative think tank, the Platt Institute, sees a make-or-break crisis point on taxes.
If we don't find a way to garner 33 votes and find consensus, everyone has to give up a little bit to get it done, then I'm afraid that our state's going to fall further behind.
What's the governor giving up?
You'd have to ask him that question. I think that, as I said before, states, whether it's Iowa last year or Kentucky recently, governors and legislatures have shown that if their state is going to do tax reform, everybody has to give a little bit. And I hope that's the approach that is in play in Nebraska, in the legislature, and within the governor's office.
The Revenue Committee wants to raise the state sales tax from 5.5% to 6.25, 14% increase. You okay with that?
No, and the reason why I'm not okay with it is that we'll still have 2 out of 3 services that will be exempt from local and state sales tax. So why are we going to increase existing taxes on services already taxed when we can look at a bigger revenue source on services that aren't taxed right now? And the increases in either sales tax or any other tax, quite frankly, is further going to hurt our state from a competitiveness standpoint.
The Revenue Committee would also increase the cigarette tax. What about that one?
As we have pointed out through our research, cigarette tax revenue is not stable, and therefore it's not a reliable source of revenue. It's also regressive given generally the patrons that purchase cigarette tax revenue. So once again, I'm going to backtrack and say that a better and bigger source of revenue would be looking at eliminating those carve-outs. We have a tax system that is based on picking winners and losers, and if we would just take a look at eliminating those exemptions and stop picking winners or losers, we can provide tax relief for everybody.
You want to eliminate all the sales tax exemptions?
No, research shows that we have to eliminate only those exemptions that aren't considered business inputs, but that would still leave $1 billion to $2 billion on the table. That would be more substantial than the package that they're looking at right now. Because if you tax business input, that would lead to a pyramid effect, which would raise prices on consumers.
But if you go after those other individual groups, isn't that picking winners and losers?
Well, if you make a general principle and philosophy as you approach this, that we're going to tax all services except for those that are business inputs, all services and goods that aren't business inputs, I think that's a consistent message in applying good policy on a universal basis. So no, I don't think it's picking winners or losers. There's research that shows that taxing business inputs is detrimental to the state. And if you leave those off the table and tax everything else, then I think that's a consistent policy. And that's also the policy that most states are utilizing right now as they look at tax reform.
Please raise your right hand.
But again, the governor has made it more than clear, no new taxes.
Raising one tax to offset another tax isn't tax relief.
What about his debt on arrival issue? Are you okay with that?
Well, I think that our approach, looking at the exemptions, if a plan would pass and you're not increasing rates and you're just looking at those exemptions, is worthy of consideration by the governor. I agree with him. Research agrees with him. Tax experts agree that actually raising rates would be harmful to the state. And I hope that the legislature, as we continue to debate this important issue, looks at better policy approaches rather than increasing rates.
Lawmakers are scheduled to hold a public hearing on all this next Wednesday, when even conservative groups in Nebraska are expected to disagree on a tax answer. In Omaha, Joe Jordan, News Channel, Nebraska.